You're watching the Coaches Roundtable on the Armstrong Neighborhood Channel. Welcome to Coaches Roundtable. I'm Ed Codi. To my right, the Swami George Abraham. To my left, the Tiger Albert Campman. Guys, we're going to finish up with football championships. Everything got done. Kudos to the PIAA, the WPIL, principals, athletic directors for navigating through a very difficult season.
I like that word, navigate, because we're still navigating everything every day, and that's what they did. Good job, Eddie.
Pine Richland in 5A, 48, Erie Cathedral Prep 7, the second PIAA title in the last 4 years for the Rams. Quarterback Cole Spencer was 10 of 16 for 179 yards and a touchdown. He's been the quarterback for 2 WPL championship teams and now a state title. What a terrific year he had, throwing for 2,627 yards and 33 touchdowns. Running back Jordan Burns, he carried the ball 6 times for 130 yards and a touchdown. Running back Caden Schweiger, he touched the ball 7 times, scored 3 touchdowns. And wide receiver Eli Yoakum, 7 catches for 172 yards, 62 yards, a touchdown. For the year, 64 receptions for 1,271 yards, 19 touchdowns, 19.5 average. He broke the record of one Neil Walker for touchdowns.
Neil Walker, how about that? Well, 2 things stand out when I watched the game. Number one, they have great balance. You know, they can run the ball or throw it, either way, beat you. And secondly, we said it on the show before, their defense really is really good. They tackle, they run to the ball, they're in position. And you get that combination going. That's how dominant they are.
That's what I was most impressed with, their defense. Number 7?
Yes.
Yeah, Miller. Their linebacker play.
Yeah, Miller played tremendous game.
Outstanding.
It's like 2 of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and once again, their offensive line. What a job.
Thanks for bringing it up, Eddie.
I always give those guys credit.
They have to.
Up front. I don't care what level you go to. Everything starts with those 2 fronts,
Absolutely.
your defensive and offensive fronts, and they've been outstanding in those areas.
You know what's interesting is I try to tell people when I talk to them, Pine Richard's a dominant team. They still have a lot of guys go both ways.
They
you know
do.
what I mean? It's
Yes.
interesting.
Yeah.
It's still high school football. It's not like some of these teams that try to go two platoon. No, play your best players, and that's what Pine Richland does.
And in 2A, Southern Columbia 42, Wilmington 14. No shame in that loss. Southern Columbia, their 10th state title. Wilmington gave it a good run. They had a terrific year. District 10 champs, the 5th straight year.
That's amazing.
They finished 11-1.
Can't beat them. They're just, and once we've spoken on this before, let's say it again. Whatever the criteria for the success factor is one thing, but when a team wins 10 state championships, they qualify to move up.
60 straight games.
Yeah, 16 in a row. I forgot to mention that. They won that.
You are, George,
Yeah.
Eddie, if I'm on that committee, I have to listen.
I
Maybe
got
we
bumped to
need-
We
4A.
have to bump them up.
To 4A.
We have to bump them up and say
At
they
least
can't.
3A.
They can't stay here.
At least 3. I would think with
They can't stay here.
with
Who was
that
3? Central Valley?
pedigree.
Yes.
Central
That better
Valley's
enough.
in 3.
Oh yeah. Well, Central Valley beats them.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, Central Valley beats them.
Honors for the 2nd year in a row. Mars running back Teddy Ruffner. He's the Butler County scoring leader with 144 points. He had 152 last year. You do the math. That's roughly equivalent to him scoring 49 or 50 touchdowns.
Listen to that.
And he's a terrific baseball player. He's going to go on and play baseball in college.
I like those 2 guys that played more than one sport. I really like that.
And in field hockey, Pine Richland Jr. Riley Wollerton, she's a Louisville commit. She was named WPIAL Field Hockey Player of the Year. She led the Rams to a 2nd straight WPIA title. And you know how hard goals are to come by in field hockey. She had 33 goals and 10 assists this
That's why
year.
she's going to Division I.
And Mars soccer star Gracie Dunaway, she's headed to Purdue. She was named the Post-Gazette Girls Athlete of the Week. Butler native Rachel Doubt, the volleyball coach at Conway High School in South Carolina. She was named the Region Coach of the Year. Mars baseball player, senior shortstop J.J. Weatherholt, get an idea, they're going to be pretty good in baseball this year. He committed to West Virginia. Actually, he made it formal. He committed to them as a freshman.
Wow. Wow.
So good
That
he
he
is.
was coming up through, they watched him play.
Batted,
Interesting.
I think, 560 last year. Pretty good for a
That's pretty
shortstop.
good for a shortstop.
And North Allegheny girls volleyball coach Heidi Miller, she's going to step down after 23 very successful years, 4 straight PIAA titles in which her team had a 4-year run of 88-1, as we mentioned last week. Her daughter, Paige, a 4-year starter, will graduate and move on to Mercyhurst, so quite a period of celebration for the Millers.
Well, that was a plan, you could tell that. That was a plan. 12 years ago, they said, okay, we're gonna take it through my daughter, and then I'm gonna enjoy life a little bit. Congratulations.
You know who
for
she
that.
played volleyball for at NA?
Who?
Her father-in-law, Bob Miller.
Oh, that's all you gotta
He
know.
he won 3 straight titles.
There you go.
How about taking over for her?
Yeah.
Ooh,
He wants to
jeez.
do it.
You lose 2, you work
That
for
is
7.
what I'd like to do.
I got a feeling they got a few more
You want to
coming
be the
up.
guy after, yeah, that,
Yeah, I
I'm
got a
not
feeling
feeling
that-
sorry for
you
them,
won't
no.
come enough.
I have a feeling they'll be pretty good.
Well,
I've
they
seen their
won't.
JVs a
Well,
few
they've won
times.
7 or 9 state
Oh, my
championships.
goodness.
Unbelievable. Here's our final high school power rankings, and once again, you see the differential in the number of games played. That's why I give kudos to the PIAA and the WPIAL, how they got through this season and got the championship in, limited the number of teams in the playoffs. They did a great job, I think.
Their plan. They had a plan. That's all I want. Some of these places that don't have plans, and then they just throw something up, and it's the NFL. NFL doesn't have a plan.
Maybe the NFL.
No, they should have taught to be that way.
Right.
Yeah.
And 6A at Central Catholic, the WPL champs, lost the playoff game by forfeit to McDowell, followed by North Allegheny, Mount Lebanon, Seneca Valley, Cannon, McMillan. In 5A, Pine Ridge undefeated 11-0. WPL and state champs. It is their 3rd trip to the state championship game in the last 7 years, followed by Peters Township, Gateway, Penn Trafford, and Woodland Hills. In 4A, Thomas Jefferson, 11-1. WPIAL and state champs, followed by the Quips, Plum, Bell Vernon, and McKeesport. In 3A, Central Valley, what a terrific team. I think it could play against anyone. I've watched them play. They're terrific. WPL and state champs, followed by Elizabeth Forward, North Catholic, Keystone Oaks, and East Allegheny.
Let me say something about Central Valley.
Yes.
Because I know that program. Their 2 best players didn't play in the state championship game.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. The kid going to Pitt and the kid going to, I forget where. Think about taking 2 best players off your team, going and winning a state
The
championship game.
Pitt going to Kid is a defensive back?
Defensive back, yes,
Yes.
and wide receiver.
In 2A, Wilmington, Beaver Falls, Stowe Rocks, Apollo Ridge, and Sarah Catholic. And in 1A, Jeanette, Clareton, Rochester, Shenango, and California. Jeanette, WPL champs, and Wilmington, of course, District 10 champs. Now let's go to our stories of the week. COVID plays no favorites in the NFL's no match for COVID-19. The Steelers and Ravens now have been postponed from Thanksgiving night to Sunday to Monday to Tuesday and now to Wednesday at 3:40. I have no idea how they came up with that time.
I could tell you.
But there are other Christmas
The
shows, I
lighting
guess,
of the
going.
Rockefeller Center Christmas tree.
Is that
And
what it
then-
is?
let me ask you something. But the NFL has contracts with what? ESPN,
Oh.
NBC,
CBS, yeah.
CBS. You mean you couldn't find another channel to carry it like at 7 o'clock or 6:30?
I don't know, but I know that's the reason. It's on NBC also, which is strange in itself because that is usually Sunday Night Football.
And also, they're going to limit the number of fans to what? Friends and family. I don't know how many
Yeah,
that's,
not
about
many,
500 or something. Which, to me, it's outdoors, it's cold. You can't have 5 or 10,000 in there in a 70,000 seat stadium.
Well, I wouldn't be one of the 5,000. That's why.
Well, I
that's what
agree.
said.
I understand that.
I just know that there are no decisions going to be right, and this is crazy. Crazy.
And there's no uniformity in the NFL for attendance. It's
No,
what
that's what I
each
said.
state
I just want
wants.
a plan. That's what I
College
said.
also, like I'll look at A&M the other day, it seemed awful loud for 8 or 10,000. And the other thing, they congregate anyway. Even though, I said to him one day, he laughed, I said, they were all spread out. They were together, but they were spread out. They were supposed to be spread out, but they weren't.
There were 30,000 at the Cowboys.
That's what I'm
game.
saying. That's a third full.
How many at the Alabama-Auburn game? It looked like 35 or
It
40,000.
seemed awful
there.
loud.
The Steelers are favored by 10.5. The Ravens have 22 or more players with COVID. They have a roster of 36. that they're down to 5 or 6 Pro Bowl players that are out. Of course, Jackson's out. I think maybe 1 or 2 of the running backs may return. The tight end Andrews is out. They have actually no backups for the offensive or defensive lines. Should this game even be played,
No,
guys?
that's what you let in what I was saying. The money is taking over again. They have to play it, but I'm telling you, in real life thinking, it shouldn't be played.
And what do you
Well,
guys?
Oh,
Denver shouldn't have played.
yeah, they should.
No, Denver,
They were punishing
Yeah.
Denver for not
Shouldn't
wearing
have played
masks.
that
I'm going to get to Denver in a second here, but this thing, Tuitt and Connor are out for the Steelers. But if I hear someone else say how unfair this is to the Steelers, unfair. You understand what's going on in the world?
Yes.
Unfair. Like the Ravens wanted to go out and get COVID.
Get
They
sick.
had
They
their
wanted to get
strength
sick.
coach
Yeah.
who was around them, who had all the symptoms and didn't
Well, he didn't wear a
report
mask
it.
and didn't wear his
a
tracing
mask.
stuff.
And he's always around the players. So what you first of all, a forfeit. The NFL doesn't want forfeits as much as they have it written in their plan. It's all about the money. There are billions of dollars there. All these teams, and if there's a forfeit, the players don't get paid.
That was what Winnell said. I was going to tell you. A lot of people don't realize that. You have the TV money and all that. The bottom line is the players want paid.
And the other thing, I understand what Tomlin said. He followed protocol about taking Vance McDonald to the game in Dallas. He did not test positive, but he was sick with symptoms of having the flu, cold, or COVID. They dodged the bullet there, putting him on that airplane. Any other times, the guy has a cold, he goes and plays. I think the Steelers should not have taken him on that trip, and they were very lucky to get away
Let
with
me
that.
ask you guys. If you were near a guy, you're tracing or whatever, but you can play football against him if you're on the other team. I don't. Like Roethlisberger, the quarterback coach has it. Well, if he's coaching them at all, how
They've
was
been
he
in the
not
room
around
together.
them?
They've been in the room together.
I don't get it.
Well, that's what happened with the 4 Denver quarterbacks. They were in the room. Who was it? Jeff Driscoll had it.
Yes.
And so all of them were declared out for the game. And so they use a reserve wide receiver, Kendall Hinton, to come in and play quarterback, which he was, 1 of 13 for
Can't play.
9 yards.
It's the NFL.
And why they're throwing it. Listen. They wanted to play that game. They'd have taken the hot dog vendor out of Section 3 to play quarterback.
the guys
as
didn't
long
know
as
who
they
he
get that
was.
game in.
The players didn't know who he was either.
No, it's a reserve wide receiver.
But I mean, he's on the practice squad.
But they're not paying attention to him.
No.
My nephew said something really cool. He said, that's why it's the NFL. He said, this guy's a Division I player. He was a Division I out. He looked like he should have played high school football in that game.
Storefront,
That's
yeah.
how great the NFL is.
And let me say something. The offense square, having him try to throw the ball 30 yards down. Why wouldn't you throw a quick few screens, wide receiver screens, just to let him have some semblance of
I
success?
think they took it away. I
first?
think even New Orleans knew that. They came up on the receiver and said,
Yeah, they were
you
up.
can't play.
They saw it about the middle of the first quarter. They realized they couldn't pass.
Saints looked like they were just,
Yeah,
let's get this over with.
Get this over with.
And get back home. Now, in San Francisco, the COVID surge in Santa Clara has forced them to move their 2 home games to Arizona. They're not allowed to play.
I sure am glad. I talked about planning in the NFL, but when you're saying all these things, Eddie, I do grasp that you have to play day by day. I mean, it's a day by day thing.
You know what, too? The premise behind it is safety. Same with New Mexico. So they just went and lived in Las Vegas. Well, isn't that defeating the idea of trying to be safe when
Yes.
you subvert the rule?
And when you're absolutely right. And when you start talking about fair, listen, Baltimore 22-26, Steelers only had 4 players and 2 coaches. But next week they could have a dozen or more. That's how
gonna
fast
happen.
it happens.
It's gonna happen.
So be
Yeah.
careful
What you say, right?
And criticizing these other teams.
Right.
The Ravens didn't want to
No
go out
one
there
wants to
and
get sick.
COVID.
No.
And, the 2 big reasons that push everything here, number 1 is money, and the second one I forgot.
There isn't any. That's
It's
it.
so powerful.
No, it's
Yes.
all it is. They say they don't care how uncompetitive the games are. It's all about health. Okay.
Someone said to me, well, what about the forfeit? And I said, look, you don't, the NFL doesn't want to go down that road.
No.
Because once you do it, then someone else says, forfeit this game. Now you're burning money. You're burning this $1 billion contract that you have in which each team before the season starts gets like $100 million.
And once you guys told me that the players don't get paid,
Yeah, that's what it is.
there'll be grievances.
Absolutely.
Oh, no, they would be lawsuits coming.
Yeah,
left
in
and
the
right.
NFL.
See,
Yeah,
the Ravens
knows
are
that.
already going it the other way. They're going to the union saying, can they make us play? Because they know what's coming. You know, when you don't have any linebackers.
If one offensive lineman goes down, who are they going to
I
put in?
know.
The wide receiver from the
It's crazy.
reserve squad?
It's crazy.
Hey, there were some terrific games, though. Kansas City 27, Tampa 24. I thought the Chiefs were going to put up 50 or 60. Mahomes, I just love watching him play. 469 yards, 3 touchdowns. Tyreek Hill, 13 catches for 269 yards. What's he run? They say a 4.2. It looks like he is the fastest guy in the
Fast guy
NFL.
I've
He may run a 4.1.
Tell you what he does, and it's really important for you people watching TV. He runs with his pads on as fast as he is without pads. See, some people have to sweat. They run in sweats. They run a 4.3. Put their pads on, they run a 4.6. He keeps his speed.
Good point.
Now, Brady was for 345 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Now, we were critical of him last week. I'm watching the game and I'm thinking, Brady likes to be methodical. A pass here, a pass there, a short pass, a quick pass. Arians has always said, no risk it, no biscuit. He likes bombs away. The only time Brady ever played like that was when he had Randy Moss. So there's a difference in there. You're not going to change Brady at 43 years of age and ask him to be this
But
mad
let me ask you,
bomber.
I hear this nonsense. Isn't there like a passing tree and a receiver at every level?
Not in his offense.
They're all
Yeah,
doing.
he likes
Arians. He runs them down the
Arians-
field.
Well,
Yes.
that's the
That's
answer.
it. He runs them down the
He
field.
doesn't care about being methodical.
And I've heard him say he likes to throw deep, but that's exactly what Brady does the worst.
Brady's dump it here, dump it there,
Yeah.
spread it around.
You can tell his body language he's not happy.
No, he's not.
I mean, I can tell his body. But he's the one that chose Tampa.
Yeah,
so I
he-
have no excuse
Yeah.
for him.
Right. Now, what are the chances next year that both of them return? What are the chances that Arian stays but Brady's forced to retire, or they say, we can't afford to lose Brady, he sells tickets for us? How do you see this
That'd be my
ending?
thought, what you just said at the end there. If Brady went in and said, I'm coming back.
Gronk too, really. They're
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
effective.
right.
Probably
But
one
we
way.
don't want to play for him. Arians will be gone. That's how fast
And
it
don't
happened.
forget, there were no fans all this year, so it didn't matter.
Now, and that's one thing, that's a good point you bring up, you're right on with that, because the NFL, of all the sports teams out there, they can survive without fans because of their lucrative
Absolutely.
TV
Yes, they can.
contracts,
Absolutely.
ESPN, CBS,
Yeah.
and NBC, the NFL
Yeah.
channel. The other sports, as I mentioned to you, the Phillies complained they lost $145 million this year. Hockey cannot go through another year without fans.
No,
They can't.
they know that. Well, it's 2 reasons. Their TV contracts are garbage, and, you know, the fact that it's a Canadian-based.
And basketball's
Yeah.
worried.
Well, NBA, though, they needed to get on TV before Christmas, and they did. It meant $500 million.
Hey, who's riding the ship? Tennessee and Derrick Henry. They crushed the Colts. I really like the Colts in this game. 45-26. Henry, 178 yards and 3 TDs. You see at the end of the game, it's just like players are worn down trying to tackle him. That missed field goal against the Steelers, then they lost. The next week they got upset by Cincinnati, I believe it was. But they're back on track. There's a team you don't want to play in the playoffs.
Yeah, no question. They're dangerous because they got great wide receivers too. So you just cannot just play
No,
Henry.
no.
See, that's you put too many people up there, you'll see Brown in the end zone that
Colts
quick.
beat 'em the
And
first
yes.
time.
Tannehill's pretty good.
Daniel's good in that
They
system.
got, and Brown.
he doesn't drop straight back all
Brown's
the time.
a terrific receiver.
Yeah, oh yeah, they got talent.
And you guys will be glad to know my curse is still alive. I praised Las Vegas last week. How good they 43-6 to Atlanta.
NFL.
So they lost that Kansas City game twice.
I believe that. And let me tell you about the other day. 5 turnovers, 140 yards and penalties.
That'll lose you.
You're not winning.
That'll lose you in a
Terrible
lot of games.
No, you're not winning.
And the other terrific game ever, 49ers, ravaged by injuries and maybe some COVID. The Rams coming off a big win against Tampa, and the 49ers beat them on a last-second field goal. And how New England beat Arizona on a last-second 50-yard field goal by Nick Foles when your quarterback only passes for 86 yards.
So,
They're playing that way though. That's what they decided to play. They're trying to win that way. The game all changed in the half when Arizona got stopped 3 times inside the half-yard line.
Yeah.
And that's when New England's going
And
to play.
I'm I'm saying to myself, how come Stidham's not playing? He has to be a better passer. But I'm not going to second guess a guy that's won 6
No,
Super Bowls.
and he's not, and that's why.
There
He'd
must
be
be
in
a
there.
reason.
I will say, Cam Newton, I used to give him all kind of excuses, you know, it was his arm and then he was out. And bottom line is he can't pass.
No.
Yeah,
He can bull you over.
But he cannot throw, the pass you have to throw in the NFL is that out pass with accuracy.
His flies.
He can dump it down the middle onto a tight end on a quick pass, but he cannot throw that
I told
pass
Al,
out to
we
the
said it, I
sideline.
think we said
They're
it.
playing to his strengths.
Yeah, if there was a bad weather Super Bowl, I'd have them.
I'm going to think that they have to be looking to draft a quarterback or to find something in a trade there.
Garoppolo.
They got a
You
lot of
think-
positions, though.
That's
They
the
got
word.
a lot of positions. I see differently. They don't want to guy throw the ball over the field because they don't have receivers. They don't have a tight end. They have nothing except running the football. So that's I think they need 17 different things besides a quarterback.
How many of those will come back of the 9 that stepped back?
At least 4 of them on defense, right?
Yeah, I
2
wonder how many
linebackers.
will come back.
The defense is already good, so it's the offense. they need.
defense is good,
The
yeah.
team I really like, and I'll put the curse on them right now. You mentioned it. I think San Francisco's going to go on a win streak. I really like their team out there healthy. They came back healthy and they whooped the Rams. I
That
really
game
like
caught me
San
by
Francisco.
surprise.
That kid played
They're
third
healthy.
place from Altoona, the Givens kid from Penn State. He's out on the field.
NFL power rankings, you guys jump in, see anything you disagree with. I have the Steelers, of course, 10-0, followed by Kansas City, the Saints. Saints' defense is
That's what's really good, yes.
tremendously
They are
improved.
good. They are good.
Tennessee at number 4, Green Bay at number 5. I like their offense. I don't like their defense. They're kind of soft on defense to me. Followed by Buffalo. From week to week, Buffalo can look like they're ready for a Super Bowl. Then the next time,
It's
they're gonna do
constant,
early
consistent
exit.
quarterback play.
And then Seattle, here's another team. Defense is getting a little better each
Yeah.
week. And then Cleveland. I know they're 8-3. People say Cleveland, they win close games, but they're 8-3.
I like their team. They can run the ball.
Running attack.
They can run the
that guy
ball,
can
so I
run.
like their team.
I would have Green Bay up there because it appears they're going to be home. And man, when you go to Lambeau in January, you better be a special player.
Well, college football, is there a mercy rule in college football? Clemson 52, Pitt 17. The Tigers jump out to a 31-0 first quarter lead. 3 interceptions of Kenny Pickett. The second quarter, Pitt had a drive to the red zone and settled for a field goal. What do you guys think about that?
Game just went as like it's supposed to. That's really simple. The talent level is, how far you want to go. I don't know if there's 3 players.
Well, Narduzzi mentioned that.
I don't know if there's 3 players on Pitt that can play for Clemson. It's the whole league like that, though. That's how much better Clemson is. than
He
everybody
said
else.
there's a huge gap between Pitt's recruiting and Notre Dame and Clemson's. And to me, the biggest gap is there. You look at the jumbos up front. Pitt's defensive line's okay, but Pitt's offensive line lags far behind Clemson's and Notre Dame's. And you see that Pickett got sacked 6 times. Pitt only had 14 yards rushing. That's where Pitt's not succeeding in getting the outstanding offensive lineman.
That is where all the teams that are behind Clemson, Alabama, that's where they fall apart. Ohio
Well, he-
State, it's on the line of scrimmage.
I
They
thought
get
he
all-
said 3 and 4 star doesn't matter to him.
They get all.
Didn't
Yeah,
he
and
That's
say-
all he's gonna get.
And then he said we have to do the best we can, to coach them up
And it's
when
true,
when
though.
we
That's
get
true.
them.
Yeah, I'm buying
And then
that.
he said something about, I don't know the exact words, like I wouldn't trade my kids for any. And I understand feeling that way about your kids, but why wouldn't you want Clemson's kids
He's
or
never
Notre
getting
Dame
them, though.
kids? He's not going to get them.
Never.
But why wouldn't you want them?
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
just
Oh,
saying.
yeah. The problem is,
To
once
win.
again, Pitt at one time could, because you went out the door, and there were 30 kids at the WPL. That's been a theme of our show.
Yes.
You can't win at Pitt anymore because, guys, I hate to tell you this. Look at the WPL, how many Division Ones there are. There's maybe 7 per year. There used to be 40. You can't get the players.
The whole state had 60 a couple years ago. Used to have hundreds.
Yes.
Now, Narduzzi's 41 and 34 in his 6th year, and for a long time at Pitt, it's like 6-6, 7-5, maybe an 8-win season. They were unhappy with Walt Harris. He won 8-9 games a year. The last time they won 10 games was 11 years ago with Dave Wannstedt. They weren't happy with him. What is Pitt looking for?
Well, George and I talk about this a lot. You could pay a guy $3 million or $23 million, you're going to get the same record. You're not winning more than 7 games anymore. That's who Pitt is. I mean that. I don't see any way.
Urban
they can beat
campus,
Clemson,
no
Notre
stadium,
Dame.
you could just go on down
Yeah,
the
and
list.
no players.
They were all over Wannstedt 2009 when they were 10-3.
Yeah.
Yeah, at that time, I have to look back and see how many Division Ones were in 2009. I don't know how many were in
I think
Pennsylvania.
he had some pretty good players
But
that
I'm
he
saying,
put into the
I
pros.
think they had some
Yeah.
good players. That's
Oh,
what I'm
right.
saying.
They did, but.
Not now. There's no players.
No. They recruit this Whippeal like it was 1980. And it's not. You need to get, if you have any chance,
But they aren't. They aren't coming to Pitt. You said it.
Why?
Why would you go to Pitt instead of Clemson?
you have your choice. Just look at the campus at North Carolina,
Yes,
Florida
right
State,
down the line.
and Miami.
Yes, and we're going to talk here, I don't know if we'll get to it today, but the time about the great coaches in WPL history. And you look at the heyday from the 20s in through the 60s, they populated the rosters at Pitt, Penn State, West
they
Virginia,
did.
Ohio
That's
State.
why they were great.
Notre Dame,
No
other
more.
Big Ten schools,
No.
Purdue. They come in here, this was the hotbed of high school football. All you have to do is look at the college and Pro Football Hall of Fames.
Eddie, we could talk about this for 5 hours. At one time, Eastern Ohio and Western Pennsylvania was the
That was
place.
it.
Now it's Florida, Georgia, Louisiana, and California, and Texas. Those are the 5 states. Everybody just lives in those states.
And you know what
They
else?
don't even come into
You know,
Pennsylvania.
it's shown itself at Youngstown. Youngstown used to have local guys.
Right.
And be a national
Dominant.
power. They can't anymore.
No.
Hey, finally, Penn State broke their 5-game losing streak, 27-17 over Michigan. I'll give Penn State credit for this. They come out and played physical. And I'm watching Michigan, and I'm going, there's no way that Bo Schembechler is at peace. That's the least physical Michigan team I've ever seen. A lack of mental toughness. For whatever reason, there's Penn State 0-5. They come out ready to play. So what happens now at Michigan? I say if Harbaugh stays, there's a huge overhaul of the coaching staff. But what does Michigan do here? They got a problem on their hands.
No, well, you said it. That's what's going to happen. You're going to see 4 or 5 coaches fired at Michigan. Harbaugh coming back, or Harbaugh.
Lions.
Yeah, Harbaugh goes to the Lions. That's what, if the Lions want him.
Yeah.
I think he's maybe ruined his
Yeah, he may have.
his resume.
Can't
Unless-
get a quarterback.
No,
He hasn't
Isn't
had
that
one
something
since
for a
he's
long
been
time?
there. He can't
He's supposed
train
to be
one.
a quarterback
Yeah.
guy.
Agree. You know what it is though? When he made his bones, he played bully ball at Stanford. He's at Michigan now, running an offense that I don't think deep down in
Doesn't
he
match
had to. But he wants to recruit receivers. We've talked about that before also. He can't recruit the type of kid he wants playing bully ball, but he's a bully ball coach.
Yeah, he doesn't have the skill set there.
No,
Hey, the
no.
Big Ten does have a dilemma. They have an 8-game schedule. You must play 6 to qualify for the Big Ten championship game. Unless the average number of games drops, then the threshold changes accordingly. Ohio State is 4-0. They must play their 2 games against Michigan State and Michigan. However, the NCAA, the college football playoff, they have no such requirement. So can you take a 4-0 or 5-0 Ohio State team over a 9-0 team, a 10-0 team, even a 9-1 team?
I would. Just
That's
because
what's
of
gonna
the
happen.
eye test.
Yeah, they are.
And I think they will too. I think Ohio State's one of the 4 best teams.
They'll
in the
rig
country.
that some because Michigan and Michigan State can put the clamps on them just by saying they have COVID.
Well, here's my power rankings, and you'll get my answer about Ohio State. I think they're a terrific team, but they haven't played enough games for
That's
me.
that has always been your thing, though. Eddie.
Yeah.
You
yeah.
go by games.
Yeah. Alabama number 1, Notre Dame number 2, Clemson 3. I'm putting Cincinnati 8-0 up there
That's
at
always
number
you-
4. BYU 9-0
You've always done that.
number 5. Florida, I really like Florida. Then Ohio State, Texas A&M, Miami, and Indiana.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Your thinking. My thinking is I go by the eye test, and Ohio State's is one of the top 4 teams.
I just think those teams have played
I don't
through
want
8 or
those
9 games.
I don't want those little children at the table.
From Cincinnati.
Cincinnati, BYU. I don't want them at the table.
Here's
They eat at the card table. That's
Then,
what they.
then, you know, if that's the case, and this is a discussion for another time, then you separate the Power Fives
Yeah,
into a
that's
higher
right.
echelon and a
Yeah,
lower,
yeah.
but don't punish them now.
Perfect year, though. The perfect year to go to 16 teams. They should have done it. They could have made a lot of money, and those teams could have got in.
That day's coming. We've run out of time. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.